Azeroth, a colorful, dangerous land full of wonder and whimsy. Whether it be the beautiful greens of Elwyn Forest, the wintry expanse of Dunmorrow and the surrounding mountains, or the absolute eye bleach that is the Barrens, there's a little something for everyone. World of Warcraft is a massively multiplayer online role-playing game released in 2004 by a company that shall remain nameless. In the 20 years since its vanilla release, we've seen the rise and fall of various factions, battled larger-than-life villains alongside sworn enemies and new allies alike, traveled through time and space and the Barrens, to keep the very fabric of Azeroth from crumbling under the weight of the Horde and Alliance's constant war. From Blood Elves and Draenei to Goblins, Pandaren, and Drakthir, every few years have seen an expansion that adds both to the player's experience through new zones, a higher level cap, new professions, classes, and more, and to the already sizable mountain that is this game's lore. As someone who was still but a wee tadpole when World of Warcraft first released, I'd always had a hard time getting into it later on. Between the stereotypes, undiagnosed ADHD, and a lack of friends, that last one still hits pretty close to home, not gonna lie. Even though the interest was there, I just couldn't commit. Instead, I chose to spend my limited time on this floating rock playing superior games like Call of Duty or Destiny. Besides, who has time to learn over a decade of story or lore stretching back to the original Warcraft games? It wasn't until Battle for Azeroth in 2018 that I finally caved and bought a subscription for the first time, and even then, it wasn't until Dragonflight, 2 expansions and 4 years later, that I finally managed to sit down with a friend long enough to get 3 characters to max level. A human priest named Shinolia, a Draenei paladin named Tawari, and a Drakthir evoker whose name I can't remember right now, and no, I will not be reinstalling the game just to check their name. It's not that important. Point is, I've played what I believe to be a respectable amount of this game, and while I've always had fun doing it, I dare say, it's always felt like I was just going through the motions, clicking through dialogue and following the little yellow question marks until the funny number on the corner of my portrait went up. When I finally reached endgame, I had no idea what was going on, where to go, or how to socialize, and so I quickly became overwhelmed and eventually drifted away from the world I'd put so many hours into and still barely knew. Even the existence of Classic WoW, ironically, didn't help because there were no markers to follow, enemies were actually dangerous, and everything just felt like it took way too long for my undiagnosed ADHD brain. Also, I couldn't play Draenei, which I really liked at the time for some reason. Fast forward to October of this year, I've since been diagnosed with a number of things, most importantly, that ever-pesky ADHD. Being properly medicated now, I've slowly begun to dip my feet back into things that have previously overwhelmed or eluded me, including the game I've now spent an entire page rambling about. Only, there's a small problem. Retail WoW is full of content, and even with the help of dextroamphetamine, it's still too much for my tiny frog brain to process, which means I need to go back in time. I'm sure plugins, tweaks, and mods are things that are available for the retail version of Classic WoW, things like quest markers, bag cleanup, or HD model swaps, but a private server where those things are explicitly allowed and built into the launcher goes a long way towards easing my paranoid mind. Enter Turtle WoW, a private server hosting Vanilla Classic with a twist. As their site puts it, Turtle WoW is a fan-made expansion story for Vanilla World of Warcraft that delves deeper into exploring the original lore of the game. Mysteries of Azeroth aims to take a different path from the Burning Crusade, emphasizing the familiar Azeroth of old over the cosmic battles with the Burning Legion. Great, why is this important? Because it means different lore that I'm not expected to know when I first start off, completely sectioned on this particular server. Add to that the inclusion of leveling challenges, such as earning XP only while drunk, or only from boars, or only being allowed to wear what you craft, and you've got the perfect recipe for my overblown amphibian ego to play for hours learning and conquering things I had no business even trying in the first place. Which finally brings us to today's challenge. Welcome to a hardcore hero's journey, where I, your humble host and resident bullfrog wrangling Batrachian, will attempt to reach level 60 in World of Warcraft Mysteries of Azeroth without dying a single time. And so, after 850 words of setup that I'm sure everyone watched thoroughly, we finally enter character creation, where we get to discuss the first changes made by the Turtle WoW team. Most obvious are the 2 new races, the High Elf refugees of Quel'Thalas for the Alliance, who can be warriors, priests, paladins, mages, rangers, or rogues, and the Goblins of the newly founded Durator Labor Union for the Horde, who can be warriors, mages, rangers, rogues, or warlocks. Other new class and race combinations include the option of mage for orcs and dwarves, hunter for gnomes, humans, and the undead, and the option for trolls to become warlocks for some reason. For our first recorded attempt at this challenge, I've opted for a High Elf Paladin, which will allow us to explore the new area at the farthest north point of the Eastern Kingdoms known as the Thalassian Highlands, while also being able to heal or bubble if we get in over our heads. I'll be the first to admit, I'm no pro at this game, and I did absolutely no research before embarking on this challenge. With our resting face sufficiently bitchy and our hair an appropriately obnoxious shade of pink, we can finally begin.
For nearly 7,000 years, the High Elves nurtured a magical kingdom deep within the forests of northern Lordaeron. However, 7 years ago, the undead scourge invaded Quel'Thalas, pushing the elves to the brink of extinction. Led by the Death Knight Arthas, the scourge destroyed the mystical Sunwell, severing the elves from the source of their magical power. Now, a broken people, the surviving elves gather in the last bastion of their strength, Alathalas. Once abandoned and forgotten, it has been rebuilt and now serves as a home to countless refugees. Nevertheless, with no access to the Sunwell, the arcane addiction of the High Elves becomes a growing issue every day. More and more individuals turn to forbidden powers to quench their thirst. As a proud High Elf, it is now your duty to restore the former glory of your people and protect your newfound homeland. However, not all is as it seems, and the Regency Council's support for the Alliance may not be as unwavering as it appears.
The first thing I did upon loading in was go into the UI settings of the plugin I use in order to set it up. Yes, I am aware that I can save a profile and just load that in order to save time, but I'm just lazy enough that I'd rather go through the motions every time I make a new character. Here though, all of my settings seem to have been saved, probably because I created this character immediately after deleting the last attempts from the annals of history without even giving the body time to go cold. This will be a minor problem later. One quick chat window and camera adjustment later, and we begin by speaking with Erethan Skyshield, a local offering comfort to yet another caravan of displaced elves. He tells us to pick a corner and make it ours, then tells us to talk to, and offer our able body to, Commander Anaraleth. Doing so, we're asked to absolutely slaughter the local boar population in order to gather enough food for all of the refugees that traveled along with us. Hopefully none of them practice fantasy Islam, inshallah. Before starting on that, I moved to accept another quest that I didn't realize isn't available until level 2, and then remember that I have to set up my action bar, because this is, indeed, a new character. Luckily, we only have a targeted heal and a buff that adds holy damage to our attacks at the moment, so this doesn't take long. Buttons properly mapped, we begin the slow process of early level combat. This video would be 6 hours long if we watched every fight, so it's a good thing I made a deal with a chronomancer behind a bar that one time. Now that all of my pork-averse viewers have clicked off, we can take our level 2 self back to Commander Anaraleth and turn in our mountain of meat, accepting a pair of leather gloves in return for our bloody work. For the most part, I'll be opting for mail and eventually plate armor, but this early on we have to take what we can get. While I was yapping, we accepted another murder quest from the commander. This time, she wants us to cull the local Crimson Lynx population for the safety and well-being of our people. She also gives us an elegant letter, which just asks us to visit our class trainer downstairs for free XP. Don't mind if I do. While I'm here, I grab the ability Devotion Aura, which grants us, and any nearby party members, some extra armor, which will always be nice. While clearing the new alerts from our spellbook, I realized that I forgot to equip our racial ability Quel'Dorei Meditation, which does different things depending on our class, but in our case will restore 10% of our max mana over 5 seconds. Not a lot now, but it does scale nicely later on. Our other passives don't really matter, since paladins can't use bows, and I don't plan on taking enchanting, but I've never really cared so much about min-maxing everything, a trait I'm sure will get me killed at some point in this journey. Speaking of journey, I grabbed the quest I tried taking earlier, A Crown of Flowers, which just wants us to collect 10 Thalassian daisies so Loverboy Avenant can make a flower crown for Jolie. I don't really care about young love, but the quest does offer XP in our own little flower hair ornament, which sounds way more up my alley. And so I begin to pick the flowers, interspersing peaceful landscaping with wanton lynx murder until both quests have been completed. Small aside here, I just love when characters in games have little quirks that don't really add all that much. Like the Night Elves do a little front flip sometimes when they jump, and here the High Elves do a little twirl in the air. It's not a lot, but it just adds that little bit to my enjoyment of the world. Alright, back to murder. Cutting down this last lynx, I actually managed to snag a cloak that gives 5 armor. Not a lot, but like the leather boots that we claimed from Anarleth, we take what we can get for now. Our next quest from the commander finally introduces our brothers in Sunwell withdrawals and one of the main imposing factions we'll be seeing in the Highlands, the Blood Elves. Unlike our band of High Elves, these Blood Elves are loyal to the traitorous Prince Kael'thas, filling the void left by the destruction of the Sunwell with dark magic that, quote, clouds their judgment. And Arleth tells us that scouts have reported a Blood Elf presence on a nearby hill, a band of spies led by Valoran Brightstar. And she asks us to, quote, eliminate the threat. I'd like to say that this is the point where I'll typically buy some mail armor and a shield from one of the nearby merchants, with the intent of becoming a sword and board paladin once an upcoming quest gives us a one-handed sword. For once, though, I decided to try out the two-handed swords for longer than 5 levels. Yeah, I'm sacrificing some armor and the ability to block, but I'm getting more damage and farming so much more aura, so we'll see how that goes in the long run. Something I just noticed in editing, we went through all of the trouble of collecting those daisies just for Homeboy to throw them away and give up on love. So I guess it's a good thing I didn't really care about these two in the first place. Sure enough, there are indeed Blood Elves on the hill just to the northeast of Brinthillion, level 4 spies that always initiate with a snap kick that leaves us stunned and on our ass. Luckily, paladins are blessed by the gods, so the level difference doesn't really matter as long as we keep our distance. Easy enough, since these guys are following proper social distancing protocols. These fights are a little more drawn out than the wildlife fights, but I'll remind you, Chronomancer behind the bar.
A few moments later.
About halfway through my murder spree, I'm joined by another hardcore player. You can tell they're hardcore because of the Still Alive title under their name, and invited to their group. Accepting this invite would mean quicker quest completion, not least because I would have someone to help with the level 5 leader instead of us battling over the same mob, but I decided to decline this, and as of recording this episode, any future group invites. Not for any grand reason, but because I'm socially awkward and averse to being perceived. Will this make the journey unnecessarily harder? Yeah, instead of waiting 5 minutes for Valor and Brightstar to respawn, I let the ADHD win and hecked off to do something else in the meantime. Heading down the hill, a Forest Hawkstrider catches my eye and reminds me of a quest that I should definitely have by now. First sign of that minor problem I mentioned earlier. I start fighting the bird and check my map for the yellow exclamation points that indicate available quests, but I don't see any in Brinthillion, which is weird, since I'm sure I should be gathering Lynx Meat and Hawkstrider legs by now. No quest progress, but we do get our first bag drop here, which means 6 more slots for random junk. Progress. Popping back into camp for a quick repair and junk dump, my worry was confirmed. Available quests that my plugin wasn't telling me about. Arcane Golem Revolt, which asks us to clear out the nearby Silver Sun mine of the titular Arcane Golems, and Thalassian Goulash, the quest I was sure I was supposed to have already, where Chef Delicia Sweetsilver asks us to gather Hawkstrider legs and lynx steaks so she can whip up something more appropriate for the refined Quildori palate of the refugees. There's also a quest giver tucked just behind these boxes here that I completely missed, but don't worry, I do come back and grab that quest before we get too far. For now, I stop by Melonius Silvershine, that's the male armor merchant, to get a quick upgrade for my armor. I buy a belt and bracers to fill those empty slots, some pants that aren't cloth, and a shirt that I actually didn't have to buy because a quest I already have offered an equivalent reward. Hindsight is 20/20, I guess, but for now it's better than what I had. I also stop by the cloth armor merchant hoping to buy a new shirt, but I end up disappointed and accidentally sell the shirt I did have when I tried to re-equip it. Whoops. Now, a little more naked, I head out into the field for some more food-related murder, hopefully not offending any other religions by graduating from pigs to birds and big cats. Hitting level 4 after only a few kills, I take a quick detour back to the class trainer in order to pick up a few new skills, only to be reminded that I am very poor. Well, back to murder. With my pants absolutely loaded with juicy meat, I'm stopped on the way back to camp by Solania Solarcrest, who asks that we bring a package of supplies to her friend in Alathalas. I accept the quest, since we do eventually have to stop by the main city of the zone, but it'll be sitting in our quest log for about 1,700 words. For now, I trade all the meat I've gathered for some mail boots that drastically increase my armor, then sell off my junk in order to afford a new paladin ability. But first, potty break. With only enough for one of the 2 available skills, I opt for Blessing of Might, an instant cast buff that lasts for 10 minutes and makes our attacks more likely to hit. Quick interruption, since I'm making a habit of those. Why is this not just a passive buff for the caster? Is there a specific reason it has to be reapplied every 10 minutes? Slot that right above our Seal of Righteousness, activate it with a mouse click, and we're off to see if Valoran is ready to die again. Unfortunately, someone else had the same idea and the patience to wait for his respawn, and so we're left holding the bag once more. But just because the leader isn't there doesn't mean we can't farm some XP from the nearby spies while we wait. Finally, a worthy opponent. Our battle will be legendary! Oh look, a letter. I can't wait to turn that in because it is a quest item and not a quest starting item that will sit in my bag for the next several hours. Haha. Ha, finally turning in that quest, I realized my earlier mistake of buying the male shirt, but not a whole lot I can do about it now. Into the bin with you.
Trash!
Now that we can afford it, I head back downstairs to grab the other skill from earlier, Judgment. This skill doesn't really do anything on its own, but it does consume any seal spell that we've cast in order to place an effect on our enemy. For now, we only have Seal of Righteousness, that spell that adds holy damage to our attacks, increasing in damage based on how slow our weapon swings from earlier. When unleashed by Judgment, the spell ends immediately and instead deals a large chunk of holy damage outright. When paired with another seal we'll get later, this will become the bread and butter of our attack rotation. With suspiciously only one quest in our log, I head northwest to the Silver Sun Mine, only stopping to commit a little violence on the way. When I get there and see the mobs already dead though, I can tell this is going to become another battle for spawns. Undeterred, I begin my descent into the mine in search of more murder. Seeing this player loot this box gives me another brain blast similar to the Hawkstrider from earlier, reminding me of a quest I should definitely have but didn't pick up. Sure enough, the withered refugee behind the boxes from earlier, Ranithir, has the other quest I need. Maddening Hunger. When High Elves go without sating their arcane addiction for too long, they begin to wither and rot, as evidenced by the various withering refugees dotting our camp that I've failed to bring up until now. His mind failing, Ranithir wants us to get a charged arcane crystal from the Silver Sun Mine and return it to him. A task I accept, obviously. Before returning to the mine, I finally find the Reset Quest History button in the PF Quest config menu, which means I can finally break free from the shadow of my last attempt and hopefully not miss any more quests before going forward. Minor problem solved. Don't mind me, just gonna grab this crystal real quick and yoink. I saw this other player in hardcore going balls to the wall while I was farming these mobs. One of the reasons I like Paladin is that I enjoy holding the balance of life and death in my hands, which led to me healing them and helping them handle aggro, and then led to me screwing around with nameplate settings so I can try to tell who needs healing at a distance. Despite my best efforts over the next few minutes, the nameplates end up bothering me enough that I just turn them back off again. I'm not sure what inspired me to murder these animals on the way back, but I sure did murder them. Maybe I should take notes while I do this. Thought for next time, surely. While I was wasting time in the menu, this guy asked for some directions to the mine I just left, which was honestly me the first time I ran through this area. Some quick directions, and off he went. Departing camp myself, I finally decide to just turn the nameplates off, content with hovering my mouse over anybody who might need help. To the northwest, we find another small camp of refugees at what I can only assume is a building called a Themarium? Never heard of this word, and a quick Google search just brings up a Minecraft mod pack, so I'm not too sure about this one. Hey, me again. Turns out if I just read the quest dialogue before recording this, I would have seen that Themarium is the name of the vineyard. Pays to read, kids. Anyway, heading inside, we find Maelor Steelguard and his wife, Fainriel Silverharp. The former asks us to commit more lynx murder to protect his grape workers, while the latter asks us to gather the grapes ourselves and bring them back so she can sell them as wine. Easy enough. Wasn't even worried for a second. Belt upgrade from Maelor and some health potions from Fainriel. Nice. One quick junk dump later, and I decide to invest in a second 6-slot bag before heading northwest away from the vineyard. Yes, I did just take a quest to murder Charlon the Lynx and take vengeance for Maelor's lost eye a few seconds ago, but Charlon is level 8 and I'm only level 6, so we'll be coming back for them later. For now, we hop on over literally just across the street to the Silver Covenant camp, where we meet with Commander Braden and are tasked with more wanton murder. Yay! This time, our targets are the various flavors of mana worms dotting the landscape. We've tussled with a few already, but now we get to steal their eyes and use them to charge mana crystals. Lovely. Yoink. Just down the hill a little farther north is Anastarian Park, where we meet with Relena Whiteshore and accept her quest to gather party supplies that she lost after being attacked by, quote, a horde of dreadful creatures. Considering that the only monsters around are lynxes, tree ants, and the occasional stag, I would like to propose that Miss Relena is simply a little bitch. Also in the park is Kalhir Dawnchaser, another little bitch boy who's scared of the living trees that can literally pummel him to death. Because of this irrational fear, he asks us to help him in his studies by murdering the nearby tree ants in his stead and hoping to come across an intact primal heart. Which takes a little while, not because they're hard to fight, but because of the insanely low 10% drop rate of said heart. Almost immediately, I aggro a tree ant at the same time that an Elder Crimson Lynx notices me, and the fight is going fairly poorly when I'm saved by a softcore rogue. You'll never see this video, but thank you, Harkin Slayer. Somewhere amidst the murder, I remembered that I dinged level 6 back in the vineyard, which means new skills at our class trainer. One of which happens to be just down this hill west of the park at Ballador's Chapel, where we can pick up another Murder for Meat quest. Huh. I hadn't noticed how often we play the Chef's Errand Boy in these early levels. I mean, that's 3 already, and we haven't even made it to the city yet. Anyway, just beside the High Priestess is the Paladin Trainer, where I buy rank 2 of our heal spell, an oh shit bubble that makes us completely immune for 6 seconds while restricting us from taking most actions, and that other seal I mentioned earlier, Seal of the Crusader. This one speeds up our attacks while active, but I'm more interested in the Judgment effect. When unleashed, this seal makes the target take increased holy damage, which pairs rather nicely with our other seal, granting every attack some extra holy damage basically for free. I don't take Holy Strike though. All my homies hate Holy Strike. Good thing I bought this bubble. Yes, run away. Forget about me, but I haven't forgotten you. Yeah. Yes. Now, where were we? Yoink, 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 yoink. Finally. Man, it's a good thing I only have to do that once. Fuck. On the bright side, we got 20 mushrooms for our trouble, I guess. I finally decided that it's time to visit the main city, Alathalas, with our first stop being at the inn we were asked to deliver to 1700 words ago. Tyrael is so thankful for our delivery that she gives us a bunch of water, which segues nicely into a hydration check. Go on, drink some water. I'll wait. Nice and hydrated? Good. Back to it then. Across the street and up a ramp, we meet with Lashandra Fintree, who wants us to murder some blood elves at a fortress to the southwest and steal their fel crystals so she can try to figure out how they're using them to sate their addiction to the arcane. Hey, lady. You had me at murder. Before that, though, let's head into the city proper and grab the rest of the available quests. First is Love No Matter What, in which Kaelin Bladesong asks us to kill a fox and take its fur so his friend can fashion it into a stole that he can then give to Lynn Swiftblade, the lovely lady standing right next to him. Side note, does she not hear any of this? Is it not supposed to be a surprise? I don't know. Either way, I get to murder, so. New gloves means we're finally wearing all male armor. Hooray! That probably won't change until we hit 40 and unlock plate, unless we find an enchanted item with, like, stupid stats or something. I can't afford new bracers at the moment, so we're stuck with the crappy pair we have for now, but such is life. At the pier, we're asked by Salen Seastrider, the dockmaster of Alathalas, to head into a nearby Murloc cave and see if they've stolen a shipment of supplies that was supposed to arrive a few days ago. Now, caves usually spell trouble, especially at hardcore. They can be pretty scary, since you don't have any easy way to escape aggro range if you end up over your head. Here in the Highlands, I'm fairly confident in my abilities, so I barely hesitated between the Silver Sun Mine and the eventual clearing of this Murloc cave, but that confidence will most definitely disappear once we expand our horizons. Conveniently, the next quest we grab also has to do with the Deep Murk Murlocs in that same cave, specifically with murdering a whole lot of them. Do I feel a special kind of kinship with these strange frog-like creatures? Absolutely. Will that stop me from drenching the sand in their amphibious blood? Nay, dear viewer, I think not. Not least because this quest offers our first piece of enchanted gear, a cloak with 13 armor and +1 spirit, which will increase our health and mana regen just a little bit. To the east is the Wretched Ghetto, where all of the withered and withering refugees have been unceremoniously shoved, and also our next two quests. One of which wants us to grab a bunch of crystals from around the city, while the other wants us to speak with a visiting night elf druid named Ordinal Owlmane under a nearby tree. The first is a simple fetch quest, so I won't dwell on that, but the second one is a little more interesting. Talking to Ordinal, he tells us about the highborn of the ancient Kaldori and how they also relied on a well of eternity. When it fell, they suffered much like the High Elves are now, the people only saved by retreating to the World Tree. The druid offers us some Moonwell water and tells us to give it to the withered so he can see if it alleviates their suffering, even if only briefly. Heading back to Owlman, he's somehow able to already tell that the water had no effect on the withered, which would suck if he didn't give us these sweet new bracers for the trouble of walking back and forth a few times. Oh, and he also told us to visit a highborn that's conveniently both alive and nearby, on the Isle of Eternal Autumn. Luckily for all of the Kaldori, we'll be hopping on over there shortly. Done in the city means back into the Highlands we go. Yoink. Meat collection time! Yoink. What on earth is this level 5 doing? Hopefully a quick heal keeps them alive, if only a little longer. And another heal, for good measure. Quick pit stop at our class trainer. Time to empty our wallet to pick up quite a few skills. In order, we take Purify, which cleanses one each of both poison and disease effects, Parry, a passive that gives us a chance to avoid damage, Hammer of Justice, an instant 3-second stun effect, and the big one, Crusader Strike. This one does 35% plus 31 weapon damage at rank 1, and increases our attack and cast speed by 3% for 30 seconds, stacking 3 times for a 9% total speed increase. Into the main rotation with you. Yoink and a yoink. That's 10, I do believe. While we're mindlessly farming, I want to take a second just to say that you matter. Yes, you. If you're feeling sad, overwhelmed, anxious, or anything else, know that your feelings are valid. You're not alone, and even if it seems like no one else is, just know that I'm proud of you for making it as far as you have. It's okay to not be okay, and having the strength to ask for help should never be a sign of weakness. If you or someone you know are struggling or have struggled with mental health, please reach out, because this world is and will always be a better place with you in it. I don't really have a segue back to the video, so here's a funny meme I saw earlier. Pretty good, right? Seriously though, ask for help if you need it, people. Take it from your local PNG Brontosaurus, the pain of that empty chair never really goes away. Oh look, another bag makes 3. Now that's what I call space maxing. Kill me. 2 feet to our left is a very angry woman who stuffs a letter into our hand and tells us to bring it to an asshole in a mansion in the city. Glad to see that class inequality is still a thing, even at the brink of extinction. Let's not forget to turn in those eyes for a quick upgrade of 2 armor. Winning. Sword upgrade. Shirt pants upgrade. Mansion asshole spotted. Astalor Sunsworn, holder of an elite quest that I will probably not be doing at any point soon. Here's your letter, guy. And as expected, he tells us to go back to Liedrin, that's the very angry woman from earlier, and basically tell her to go fuck herself. Classy. But hey, he's offering some of that oh-so-sweet XP, so who am I to judge? Before leaving, let's climb to the top of the Citadel of the Sun for a single quest. Synodas Azuresky says that he's discovered a source of fell magic on the Isle of Eternal Autumn and asks us to bring it to him for destruction. Level 12, so that's another one that can wait a little while, methinks. On the way down, I decided that now would be the ideal time to test the fall damage of the server. For normies, that is anyone not in hardcore, the damage is the same as retail, but I'd read in hardcore chat that it's capped to 10% for some reason. If nothing else, only losing 10 health to this drop gives me a little less anxiety about being so high up, I guess. Oh boy, the lass has murder in her eyes. Yes, give in to the hate. Yes. After selling the gloves she just gave us to the librarian right next to her, we're finally off to that Isle of Eternal Autumn I keep hearing about. Triads, and so it begins again, this time with only an 8% drop rate. Lovely. Marandra the Centaur tells us about the massive tree behind her, explaining that she and her sisters had used the seeds of said tree in order to create ancients that would walk the ages with them. Unfortunately, because nothing is simple in this world, the tree's offspring were flawed and only lasted a, quote, mere few thousand years. Now, she asks us to gather a few acorns from the ancients' resting places, presumably so they can try the exact same thing with no alterations whatsoever. We'll add it to the list, horse lady. Oh, so Purified does work on the cage drain. Nice. Huh, that didn't take nearly as long. Not that I'm complaining. Is it murder if they're already a ghost? Asking for a friend. Here at the northwest edge of the island, we find that living highborn that Owlman mentioned earlier, Visnaya Firefly. Turns out, the cool-looking person outside is a guardian meant to keep Visnaya from leaving her abode, so she asks us to go back to the big fuck-off tree and check in with a druid overlooking a withering elf. Before that, let's check in with Sierra Moonwarden, that's the guardian outside, and grab the two quests she has. One is... have we determined if ghosts can be murdered? Anyway, she asks us to slay the highborn ghosts around the island, even if they resemble someone we know. Spooky. What is certainly murder is the other quest asking us to kill the Farstride Murlocs at the south side of the island, which I am always eager to do. Checking in with the druid Rhine, we're told that the tree won't heal the withering refugee beside her, even if it'll stop the effects of the withering for now, and that she knows what the highborn wants. Instead of letting us in on the plan, we're asked to gather leaves and a Hawkstrider heart, which involves a little bit of murder, so I guess I can't complain too much. We give the ingredients to Rhine just for her to tell us that what we actually want is a mana core underwater in the ruins to the west that we'll soon find out are guarded by Naga. Once we have it, it's back to Visnaya with us for the next step of whatever this plan is. Bingo! An enchanted drop, and it's male. +2 strength and +1 agility is actually a pretty nice drop for us, and it's an armor upgrade, so we're winning on all accounts. Well, it wasn't as cathartic as good old-fashioned murder, but it did increase that little blue bar, so who am I to complain? Now, on to the leader, Vanthilir Therin. Another worthy opponent. Our battle will be Well, we get a new sword at least. And it turns out we got a ring from the Ghost Leader that belongs to someone on the Regency Council back in Alathalos that we'll get to keep if we go talk to him.
I can't stop winning!
Fratricide is defined by Merriam-Webster as the act of killing one's own brother. It can be done either directly or via the use of either a hired or an indoctrinated intermediary. The victim need not be the perpetrator's biological brother. In a military context, fratricide refers to a service member killing a comrade. This term is often used metaphorically to refer to civil wars. Quick logout to try and fix the pure white murlocs I just fought. It doesn't work, and even deleting the WDB folder, the game's cache, doesn't fix the issue, so I guess they're just albino for now. Nice to see some representation in media, if nothing else. Fratricide is defined by Merriam-Webster as, in the middle of killing my fellow amphibians, I decide to fiddle with my graphics settings for some reason. Just crank them all the way up, frame rate be damned. I do eventually lower them again, but that's later, and this is now. I grabbed my level 10 class quest from the Paladin trainer in Ballador's Chapel, but for some reason I don't buy any of the new skills I just unlocked. Hey, I never said I was a smart frog. Instead, we hop back to Anasterian Park to turn in that autumnal heart we grabbed earlier, spend our first talent point on a 5% increase to the effect of our devotion aura, and then head into the city for our usual business. Hello, yes, I would like to buy 5 tall glasses of ice-cold milk, please. New boots and belt means we're wearing at least light mail in every slot, bringing our armor up to 579. What does that actually mean? I have no idea. A bigger number has to be better, right? Just up the hill at the Regency Spire, I check in with my usual weapon dealer Soalara in search of a two-handed sword upgrade, but she doesn't sell one until level 60. Maybe I should have stuck with Sword and Board after all. Coming here wasn't a complete waste, at least, since the owner of that ring from earlier is actually just 10 feet away. Oh yeah, +1 strength and stamina. It's all coming together. Across town, we meet with Fanoodle Goldweaver and give him the fur of that poor fox that we clapped earlier, which he makes into a stole in literally seconds. And all he wants in return from Kalen is a bottle of Dalaran Red, which sounds like a steal to me. Yep. Here's your scarf, lover boy. It's while I'm heading out that I finally decide to go take vengeance for Maelor's eye. Remember Maelor? The guy at the vineyard who asked us to kill Charlon several hours ago? I told you we'd come back for them later. On the way back, I do finally stop by the Paladin trainer again to grab a few more skills. Lay on Hands, a literal lifesaver that heals the target for my max HP at the cost of whatever mana I have left. Hand of Protection, which is another oh shit bubble that I can apply to other people than myself, doing basically the same thing as the one we grabbed earlier. And a Hand of Reckoning, a taunt. That's it. I also upgrade both Seal of Righteousness and Devotion Aura, bringing them up to rank 2. Now we're off to kill Charlon. Shh, just go to sleep, kitty. That's it, just go to sleep. Phew, glad that's finally out of my quest log. There's nothing worse than carrying around a low-level quest for hours, making it so I have to backtrack. I mean, could you imagine if I could have been doubling up on delicious XP this whole time? Fuck. Back to Brinthillion. Might as well grab those fell crystals for Lashandra while I'm here. Besides, I hear murder is good for relaxing after silly mistakes. Shame there's only one quest that needs us to farm drops from these specific elves. Oh well, nothing to be done about it.
Hooray!
Another talent point into our Devotion Aura, bringing that bonus to 10%. While I'm in a murderous mood, why don't we hop on over to that cave full of murlocs for a little more fratricide, just for funsies. 7 warriors, dead. 5 oracles, super dead. And 5 Dark Hunters, you guessed it, extremely dead. Even Merkblood didn't get to live, and he isn't even a quest target. I was just seeing red at this point. Now, to grab that box of supplies for sailing and be on our way. Yoink. While we're out and about and tying up loose ends, let's head back to the Isle of Eternal Autumn and turn in that first Murloc murder mission. And then go for a nice swim, both to murder our new targets, the Naga, and to steal the mana core that Ryan told us about earlier.
I am under the water.
Yoink.
No. Wait.
I am actually your one and only true frog.
Fuck this shit, I'm out.
Wasn't even worried for a second. Back at the Highborn with my britches properly shitted, we're told that the mana core is actually the core of an ancient. Apparently, the plan was to raise an arcane ancient that would help curb the arcane addiction this whole time. Nice. Outside, we hand over the Naga skills that almost ended our run tragically, getting a few water-breathing potions and another elite quest that I don't take. Because I have balls of steel, I decide that now is the time to go fuck with that level 12 guy on the other side of the island, because almost dying once clearly isn't enough. Oh yeah, this bodes well. Oh yeah, I win again. I am the greatest. Now, time to eat a mushroom and hope I don't burn to death anyway. Wouldn't that be a way to go? Tired and just about ready to wrap up this session of playing, I decide to just use my Hearthstone to get back to town a little quicker. One junk dump later, and we hop across the street to turn in those fell crystals to Lysandra, then make the climb up the Citadel of the Sun to turn in the chunk of fellstone that I also almost died for, getting some mana potions and stamina scrolls as thanks. Handing over that fell-touched letter to Varisa Windrunner at the Regency Spire, I'm reminded of my mistake in holding onto it for so long. Here I am thinking I'm almost done with the Highlands, and she's just like, here's a quest to meet a guy you've already done work for. I live in a nightmare of my own creation. Owlman is indeed impressed by our sweet new mana core, so much that he asks us to bring the news to Darnassus, the Night Elf capital, ourselves. I would be glad to if I didn't have to go back and tie up even more loose ends here. A cloak forged from the blood of my brethren. May their sacrifices never be forgotten. Here's your box, guy. Alright, you know the deal. Talent point goes into Devotion Aura. I don't make the rules. We meet again. Shame there's only one quest that needs us to farm drops from these specific elves. Fuck. A meager 8% drop rate. Oh, that means we're gonna be here for so long. Right at the finish line, too. Huh. I guess there is a god. Bring this letter back to Commander Braden, and he tells us to bring the news to Lady Windrunner, which means we can skedaddle back onto the city. Quick detour to bring Blessing of Might and Seal of the Crusader up to rank 2. Boots and Pants upgrade, bringing our total armor for this session up to 789. Still not sure what that means, but it's more than the 75 we started with, so I'll take it as a win. Hand over the letter to Lady Windrunner. Turns out the Grand Magister Romath is behind the Blood Elf menace in the Highlands. But Varisa doesn't think anyone else will believe her even with the letter, so she sends us upstairs to play pretend and get more information, because they'll definitely believe the word of some random nobody if they won't believe a member of the council. I thought about bringing up this little fact, but then she offered XP, so I had no choice but to do what I was told. Hop right on up to the Grand Magister, no biggie. Tell a bit of a fib, also no biggie. Watch as he opens a portal to Outland, okay, that one might be a bit of a biggie. Lay eyes on the traitorous prince himself, Kel'Thas.
A few moments later.
Okay, so it turns out the Grand Magister is just a fool, loyal to his prince to a pretty big fault. It may be the autism spectrum disorder talking, but I don't really get the feeling that Romoth is a bad guy, even if he is a bad guy, you know? I'd still f*** him in until he's back on the ground. Varisa seems a touch surprised to hear about Kel'Thas being alive, and while we can't answer her questions, we did do what we were told like a good little Batrachian. And so, our pack a little heavier with these useless cloth boots, we're finally given the quest to depart from these Thalassian shores for the night elf town of Aberdeen and Darkshore, courtesy of Lorthamar Theron. When we arrive, we're told to speak with Sentinel Flinda Nalshea to continue our journey. And so, it is while the good and righteous Eladriana of Quel'Thalas awaits the Alliance boat that will take her beyond all she's known into a large, dangerous world full of perils and plots waiting to be uncovered, that I will finally stop yapping and bid you all farewell for now. If you're still here at the end, thank you. Your support means the world to me. It may not seem like much, but you must have liked the video at least a little bit to have stuck around for what has ballooned into a much larger project than I'd first predicted. That said, if you could hit that like button, if for no other reason than to scratch my brain, then it'll tell me that someone somewhere in this vast pond found my annoying voice entertaining enough to stick around. I have some of part 2 already recorded, and a lot of the setup was handled here, so stick around, or maybe hit that subscribe button to be notified of when that's ready. I was about to say that's all, and do the fade to black thing, maybe play some funky copyright-free music, but I actually wanted to hop back into the recording closet just to remind you guys that you matter. I may be a poorly drawn frog on the internet, but behind the PNG is a person that understands what it feels like to think you're alone, and that nobody cares or that nobody would miss you. It sucks. It eats at you, gnawing at everything you are until you're convinced there's no way out but out. But even at your lowest, when you've hit your ass and you've clawed your hands bloody and you just can't seem to escape, there are people out there willing to help. Ways to pull your head out of the water and take another breath while you still can. So reach out, scream, cry, break something, just make sure that no matter what, you keep on breathing. Till next time, friends. It really is great. I mean, look at that. How could that not lift the mood?